Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Exam Tricks and Tips. This comprehensive series is designed to prepare you for the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. The series is entirely free, so please subscribe to this channel. Welcome to episode 5. We'll be covering question number 36 to question 40 in this particular video. So let's start with the questions. Question number 36. Which AWS Cloud Adoption Framework capability belongs to the people perspective? Data architecture, event management, cloud fluency, strategic partnership. You can pause your video, read the question, and mark your own keywords. I hope you have done that. Let's go to each of the options and see which one are the right ones, which one are the wrong ones. So I have marked a keyword here, people perspective. So this is around cloud adoption framework, and I think we want to know which capability is linked to people perspective, and that's the main keyword here. I'm not a great fan of this question because it's not based on a technical know-how knowledge area. It's kind of a bit logical, and sometimes you just need to know it. But we'll try to solve it in a logical way. So the first option, data architecture. Data architecture is nothing to do with people. It's a capability of the platform perspective, which deals with design, implementation, and management of data infrastructure in the cloud. So you have your cloud, you need to store data, and then the whole perspective around starting from requirement to build and then managing the data once it's there. That part is this. So it's not nothing to do with people perspective. So this option is incorrect for me. It's a capability of a platform perspective, not people perspective. So that's out. Next option, event management. And we'll go through the documentation of all of this. So let's look at the second option, event management. And this question is actually tough from if you're not read through it. And I will give you links in the video description at later point in time to go through so that you know the subject area. Event management, it's again another one. It's an operational perspective. It focuses on monitoring, troubleshooting, optimizing cloud-based system and applications. Again, it's not related to a people perspective. So this option is also wrong. So option B, incorrect. Cloud fluency. Now this one is something that is important for us. So cloud fluency is a critical aspect of people perspective. And it enables organization to build a cloud competent workforce. So this is all about, making sure that you have a set of people who they have knowledge and skills and behavior necessary to be part of a cloud organization, right from building, maintaining and supporting those kind of application. So you need to have designers who can understand cloud design. You need to have business analysts who can understand cloud requirements and how to map them in terms of uh, requirements which can relate to cloud concepts. You need to have developers who can work with cloud technologies. You should have support staff, operational support staff who are supporting application who understand cloud. So this particular cloud fluency aspect then covers all the people aspect of people who are going to work in your organization supporting this cloud application and infrastructure. So this is the right answer. It's very important from a successful cloud adoption perspective. So this is correct for me, but we will go through the next option as well and see how does that look. And the last one, option D, is strategic partnership. And again, this is not a people perspective. It is business perspective. It involves establishing and maintaining relationships with cloud vendors and partners to achieve the business objectives. So this is all about your relationship and vendor management skills. And this particular aspect is focusing on business. So D is also incorrect. It's not a people perspective. capability of cloud adoption framework. So for us, our answer is option C. For this particular question, I will show you the reference documentation from AWS, and you will get the links for all of this in the video description later on. This is the page from AWS Cloud Adoption Framework white paper, and I've straight away jumped into people perspective, and you would see, what does people perspective include. The overall theme is culture and change, cultural evaluation, workforce transformation, transformation leadership, etc. And you would see one of the 7 areas over here is cloud fluency, and it's all about building a digital acumen to confidentially and effectively leverage cloud to accelerate business outcomes. Essentially, if you have your if your organization is working on a cloud infrastructure, you need people who understand it and are fluent in it. So that's the answer for question number 36. Answer is C, cloud fluency. Question number 37. Let's cover this one now. Which AWS service can be used at no additional cost? Please read your question, mark your keywords here. It's not a big question anyway. I hope you've gone through the question, marked the keywords. This is a very small question, and there's only one keyword, like which service is essentially free. Now, again, looks like this episode is all about covering topics which are not super technical or have great technical concepts. But yeah, these questions and similar questions do appear in the exam, so we have to cover these, and we'll do our best to answer them in the most logical fashion. Let's go one by one. Amazon SageMaker. This is a machine learning service. It's not free. It has a free tier, but that's about it. You cannot. This is not free, and this is definitely a wrong answer. So this one, I'll rule it out. AWS config, again, this one is not free, and I don't believe there is any free tier for AWS config as well. In fact, you start with, you have to pay a very small, but certain amount for configuration item recorded in your AWS account, and you have to pay per AWS region. So if you have, say, one particular item that you're maintaining, but it's across multiple regions, you'll be paying, that many per region cost for it. It's a small cost, and again, as part of this question, we just want to establish, is it free or not? So there is, in fact, if you go to the pricing of AWS Config, you will see various tiers and various pricing structure. But from point of this question, is it free? Is it not? It's not. So it's a wrong answer. AWS Organization. So yeah, AWS Organization is the right answer here. There is no charge for AWS Organizations. Essentially, organization is a kind of a bucketing mechanism that you get where if you have multiple accounts in your organization for using AWS, then you can combine them, build some sort of hierarchy and structure, and it's easy to manage. The management becomes easy, and you also combine them from a volume billing perspective. So assuming you have 100 accounts in your organization, one for each department: finance, technology, procurement, HR, etc., and each of them are being billed separately, and the usage kind of you don't get economies of scale impact or discount over there. But when you combine it, then you could get one bill and you can get volume discounts on it. So it has advantages. And in terms of cost, there is no cost, but it's just a packaging mechanism. So you don't pay for usage of organization. In fact, you get discount, as I told you. However, the services that you are using, they will be charged, and that's obvious. Whether you use organization or you don't, the services, if you're using a EC2 service, you're using S3, if you're using Lambda, you'll be paying for the usage of that. So the organization itself is not, there's no cost to it. There's no free tier. It's, whatever level of organization usage you do, it's free. So that's the correct answer. Cloudwatch, again, this is not free. It has a free tier, but it's paid beyond a certain usage. So this is also incorrect answer. So final answer for this particular question. So the given list of services, answer C is the correct answer, AWS Organizations. I will quickly run you through some documentation that will support our justification. an example for this. Yeah, you need to know AWS documentation. You would see here AWS Organization Pricing. You're only charged for the resources that the user is actually using. The organization service itself is free of charge. So that's organization documentation from AWS for AWS config. And as you can see, it's not free. There is an initial charge of $0.003 per item that you're recording, and it's per region. So one item could attract multiple charge if it's across multiple region, and then that's just the initial charge, but there is more charges if based on the number of rules, conformance packs, etc., etc. So AWS config, that's a documentation for you. The next one is for SageMaker. It's a machine learning service we have seen earlier, and here is the on-demand pricing, and basically it just tells you that it's not free. There is some cost associated with it. It's not free. Yeah, that's it. That's it for this question. Let's move to the next question. Question number 38. A company has 5 terabytes of data stored in Amazon S3. The company plans to occasionally run queries on the data for analysis. Which AWS service should the company use to run these queries in the most cost-effective manner? Usual drill, please read through the question, pause the video, and mark the keywords. I hope you read through the question. I marked my own keywords here. You can match it. So essentially, we have a lot of data in S3. And in fact, that is also a keyword. And we need to run queries. That's my first keyword. And we need the second requirement, or the keyword is we need to run it in a cost-effective manner. So let's go through the options. Actually, if you know about this service, you can get the answer straight away. You don't have to go even elimination, but we want to know about everything. We want to rule out every option that's not correct. Hence, we'll go through step by step. So first one, we have Amazon Redshift. Now, as you know, Redshift is a data warehouse, and it's meant for large scale data analytics, and it's very expensive because it's made for bigger purposes. It's costly as well. It's definitely costlier than the likes of Athena, and it's not cost effective for occasional query. It's a great data warehousing tool, but it's not the current use case of running occasional queries. It's going to be super expensive. So I would say Redshift is not correct, mainly because of cost. It's not being cost effective, and it's not the real usage of Redshift. So that's out. Amazon Athena. So here's the correct answer for us. Athena is a query service. It's an interactive query service. It can analyze data directly from S3, so that requirement is met. It runs SQL queries. It's serverless, so there's no need to manage infrastructure. You can analyze data, start analyzing data immediately, and you only pay for the amount of data that it scans, and it's a cost-effective solution. So if you have lots of data in different format, S3 is the format here, and you need a query engine to run on it, then Athena is the best solution. In fact, you generally the solution, and you will get to this kind of scenarios when you do solution architect associate or professional course. You then need a visualization tool as well. So S3, Athena, and then QuickSight as a visualization tool. It's an amazing solution for doing queries on data, and then presenting the output to your senior stakeholders. So Amazon Athena is the right answer. Is the best solution when you want to do interactive query, and it's very cost effective. So that's our answer. Let's go through other options and see what do they mean, and have you got a wrong option as an answer. So Kinesis, Amazon Kinesis is used wherever there is data streaming needed, and there is a need for a real-time processing of the data. So that's when Kinesis is used. It's not a good choice for running queries on stored data. So again, it's a very specialized service. It's expensive, and it's not meant for on a static data to run some queries. It's meant for streaming data, real-time usage, and we don't have any of those requirements. So I would cross that out. Amazon Kinesis is an incorrect answer. And the last one, RDS. RDS is relational database. It's equivalent to having Oracle on-prem, and you can use it for processing of large data as your a relational database. But it's not it can be on one of the online databases, but when you want to run, a lot of queries on stored data, which is expected to be, static, and generally it's used for reporting purpose. That's where, QuickSight comes into picture. As I mentioned earlier, RDS is not as cost effective as Athena. So I will out for that purpose. RDS is, you can run queries on RDS. Obviously, it's a relational database. You can run SQL, but from an cost effectiveness perspective, I think Athena is the best solution. So that's our answer. So option B is the answer for question number 38 for running queries. And your biggest tip here is wherever you see the running queries, and you will get this a lot of many times in solution architect exam. If you want a cost effective query engine, Athena is the way to go. It can run on S3, it can run on various other data formats as well. In terms of, here is a reference documentation from AWS, and you can see, it's an interactive query engine and usage of it. There's an example here, and you can do a deep dive on it yourself. How Amazon Athena works, what data types it works on, and how can you then plug into visualization tool. So that's it on this particular question. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 39. What is customer responsibility when using AWS Lambda according to AWS shared responsibility model? Short question, please read the question, mark your keyword. You can pause the video if you like. I hope you have read the question, marked your keywords. So what do we have? So the keyword here is, what's the customer responsibility in case of AWS shared responsibility model? You will get lots of questions around AWS shared responsibility model. Obviously, you'll have to refer to it, but generally, high level rule that you need to follow is anything inside the cloud, like application, etc., is customer responsibility. And anything, the cloud itself, maintenance of the cloud, hardware and underlying infrastructure, it's all responsibility of AWS, including the physical security of the data center, because customers do not have access to data center. They don't even know where their data is. So that's kind of general rule. Along with, if then you can think about, okay, you got data center, you got hardware, you got servers, operating system, maintenance of operating system, putting software on operating system. All of that will be part of AWS. And what will be part of responsibility of customers is essentially anything to do with managing of application and the features around it. So that's kind of general concept, but let's jump into it one by one, options wise, and we'll kind of the introduction I gave about it, about AWS shared responsibility model, is to kind of just steer the discussion based on that particular principle. So managing the code within the Lambda function. Now, code is your application code. So application is responsibility of customer. So according to me, this is the right answer. This is customer responsibility. So, and just to repeat again, AWS shared responsibility model says that customers are responsible for managing their code. Whether it is Lambda function or otherwise, doesn't matter. Even though Lambda is a AWS service, the code itself will be a script that you want to do something. You want to run query on customer data and create in a certain format, and then maybe dump it into QuickSight. So that logic belongs to you. Your application developers will write it, and managing that code will be your responsibility. And it also includes securing the code, handling the error, the usual drill of code development. So this correct answer, the first option itself is the right answer. So option A is the correct answer, but let's go through the other options. Option B, confirming that hardware is working in the data center. Now, based on what I told you, hardware management of underlying infrastructure is AWS responsibility. Whether it is Lambda or some other service, it doesn't really matter. In managing the hardware, operating system, patching the OS, installing the OS, all of that would be job of AWS. So B is gone for that, and C, we just discussed that as well. Effectively, C is also gone for the same reason, because patching of operating system will be responsibility of AWS. The last option, shutting down the Lambda function when they are no longer in use. Again, this is not a customer role. We'll rule that out. It's part of maintaining underlying infrastructure and managing the hardware, etc. So the answer for this question is on option A is the answer. And exam tip for you, you have to refer to AWS documentation, and you need to really go through AWS shared responsibility model. But the more questions you will get a lot of questions on this particular concept, and they are very simple. It's along those the separation of responsibility along that line. Anything to do with application and logically you can relate, maybe giving accesses to the users, etc., will be a responsibility of the customers. But anything related to hardware, physical security, managing of hardware, or doing any software related bits, even licensing on the hardware, is responsibility of AWS. If you have, I think there was a question we saw earlier, which was around application software license. Now that will be part of customer responsibility because it's a software license, but it's for your application. So yeah, important area. Before we move to the next question, I do have a reference documentation that I would like you to go through it. We already talked about it, the split of AWS and customer responsibilities. I will put a link for all of this in the video description for your quick reference. But yeah, this kind of reiterates everything we have said in last few minutes. Application management is customer responsibility, including identity access, resource configuration, etc., and how they manage the code. But AWS will then look at everything in terms of underlying infrastructure, hardware. Question number 40, which service enables customers to audit API calls in their AWS accounts? Please read the question, mark your keyword. It's a short question and options are also quite short. I hope you've gone through the question. So what's the keyword here? We need to audit API calls. In fact, we have done a similar question in previous episodes with slightly different options. So yeah, let's go one by one. First one, Bullseye, CloudTrail. This is the right answer. The CloudTrail service is made for this purpose. There are lots of obviously features, but one of the feature is it enables customers to audit API calls in their AWS accounts. So you want to do auditing of your accounts. You can use CloudTrail. CloudTrail records user activity and API calls across AWS services as events. These events can be used to identify who did what, where, when, and to detect any unauthorized access or any other security violation. It's a very good tool in case you have some sort of alarms raised due to security violations, or you see any unauthorized activity. You could go through CloudTrail logs, and then you could see if there is any part of application which is external, internal, that was not meant to be accessing a piece of resource that you have in your AWS accounts. That's the correct answer. But yeah, we will go through other options as well. AWS Trusted Advisor. Now, Trusted Advisor, as the name suggests, it provides recommendation. You cannot use it to investigate what happened, which API called, your AWS accounts. It provides recommendation, and all of this, the recommendation can be used to improve then by taking action of security, reliability, performance of AWS workload. So you can use that recommendation then to fine tune the application, but it's not used for auditing API calls. So I would see Amazon Inspector. Now this is a service that will, it's like a cop. It will help you identify and remediate security vulnerability in the AWS account. So if your account is not secure enough and you're not logged them, then it would tell you what are the things that you can work on. Again, it's sort of advisory, but in a very important area, and it's kind of going deeply into security aspect. But it is not going to be used for finding out if any API have been called and has accessed resources in your AWS account. So I'll rule that out. Not meant for this purpose. The last one is AWS X-ray. As the name suggests, X-ray obviously will do X-ray of your application, and you can see through the application. Essentially, it will help you debug and monitor application running in AWS. So it's kind of next level of debugging that you get from it, but it is not meant for auditing any API calls within your AWS account. So not meant, not purpose built for that, and hence not the correct answer. So we go with option A for this, which is AWS CloudTrail. And exam tip, yeah, you just need to know your stuff, and you got AWS documentation for that to help with all your questions and all your investigations and analysis. Let's see what do we have here. AWS X-ray. It's a new service that we have come across. So we'll go through. I would advise you to go through the documentation. As you can see, it traces the user request. It's essentially a debugging tool, and then there are various aspects. And there is a bit around how it works. Please go through it from exam perspective. You just need to know it's a debugging tool. So if your question is talking about debugging, then you would be able to use this as an answer. And if it's not, then you can rule it out the way we have done just now. you also come across Amazon Inspector. This was kind of first time in this particular series. So please go through Amazon Inspector documentation as well. Uh, it is essentially a security tool that you get to identify the vulnerabilities, and it will tell you, if what do you have in terms of security vulnerability in your AWS accounts. So that's Amazon Inspector for you. That's it on this question. That was the last question in this series. That brings us to the end of this episode. I'll see you in the next episode of this series soon. If you enjoyed this content and want to stay updated on future episodes, then please subscribe to this channel. Your support motivates me to continue producing high quality content in this area. Thank you for watching. See you soon in the next episode of this series.